what stops to buy during a recession? Now I want to tell you a story, a credit card analogy story of what stops to buy during recession. Now stay until the end to listen, because the answer to what stops to buy or invest into during recession will become crystal clear to you at the end of this lesson. You know that there are two main parties when it comes to credit card, right? The banks, what we call the issuer, and the network or the credit card company like Visa, MasterCard, Discover, or even Amex, right? Now, every time when you swipe your credit card, right, when you spend money at any shops or any business, what we call as the merchant, you actually borrow money from the bank, right? You become not the bank's liability, but you actually become the bank's asset, right? You become the bank's current asset. Now, the thing is now, you actually own a liability because you actually owe banks a certain kind of money, a certain sum of money, right? For over the possession, maybe it's an LV bag, maybe it's a Gucci bag, or maybe it's a car that you can't wait to have. Now, the money that you actually just swipe is that amount of money moves electronically through many hands. First, from the bank, and then through the network, which means could be Visa, Amex, or MasterCard, and then to the merchant's bank. And every time when you use a credit card, the shop where you buy your things, or so-called the merchants, pays a processing fee equal to a percentage of that transaction. Now, normally that's about 1 to 3% of the transaction. Now, Amex generally charges a higher transaction fees over any transaction, which is why Amex brand them as the premium credit card provider, right? And that is also explains why Amex are not accepted as widely as Visa or MasterCard, because the fees that the merchant has to pay is normally higher in anywhere around the world. But you see, the bulk of this transaction fee are actually go to Visa, MasterCard, or Amex pocket. Then, of course, a portion of that fee is actually paid to the bank who issue the credit card via what we call a payment network called the interchange. Now, these fees are set by either Visa, MasterCard, or Amex. They are set by the payment networks, and they actually varies depending on the volume, on the value of transactions. Now, this kind of fees charged for every transaction is absolutely guaranteed. Now, there's no upside, right? There's only consistency. So during recession, when even when the stock market are down, even companies like Visa, MasterCard, and Amex, even their stock price are down. But bear in mind, not every company where the stock price are down during a recession is a good bargain according to value investing methodology, because not all these companies are undervalued when the entire stock market is on sale or on bargain. Now, sure, like in a 2020 recession, you can actually buy into airline or aviation stocks, but the pandemic that happened in the year 2020 will fundamentally change the way of how people travel, of how people fly. And many aviation companies around the world would never have that financial strength without government bailout to weather through the business slump and recover financially after the pandemic or the recession ends. However, a credit card company like Visa, MasterCard, and Amex is not going away anytime soon. Although in the recession 2020, they do offer a lower guidance on their expected revenue going forward. Now, on the other side, still using this credit card analogy, you just think of what the banks earn from every credit card transaction that you swipe. From credit card, banks are actually earning these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Banks are actually earning 5 kinds of fees. Number 1, the interest charge on the outstanding amount. Number 2, the annual fees of the credit card. Number 3, if you are late payment, there's a penalty on your late payment. Banks will actually earn that late payment fees. And then banks also earns balance transfer fee. Banks also earns a cash advance that you took from your credit card. Now you see, the bulk of the income earned by the banks on credit card is the 18% per year, which is like 6 to 10 times more than the transaction fee of what credit card company like Visa or MasterCard are charging. 18% 1 year, that is like loan shark, Along.
When you owe money, no pay money, telling me that you are so sorry. Are you trying to be funny with loan shark? Oh, they say next week you will pay me when you get your month-end salary. Don't say didn't pay, no one you, I am loan shark.
But all legal one, legal. Now, think of it this way. If you are someone like me that settled the full amount within 20 days, after I actually incur a transaction. The 20 days is an interest-free period, as you know. Banks almost don't earn anything significant from you. In fact, banks could be losing money for people who actually settle their balance every month in full. Now imagine if everyone actually settled their payment every month in full, banks will actually go down. They still need to hire people to man the call center. You know the call center when you call in, when you lost your credit card, or when there's a fraudulent transaction on your credit card. That is a cost of operating credit card business for a bank. And then they still need to send you the monthly credit card bills. That are all hard costs. However, banks have one huge upside that is largely relying on the things that cannot control. What are they? Banks customer who pay on time, who settle the full amount. These are the aspects a bank cannot control. Like me, I'm the bank's worst customer. The best customer for a bank are someone who only pay the minimum amount of their credit card bill on time every month, but not bad enough to go into default or bankruptcy, because otherwise banks will need to write off that as bad debt, because credit card is a debt that is without any collateral. Of course, banks can chase you for payment or even blacklist you, from Bank Negara secret system. But end of the day, credit cards are unsecured lending for banks. It carries a higher risk than loans, other credit products like loans, like mortgages or car loans, because at least they have some collateral. Banks don't have the means to immediately recoup whatever is owed on their credit card. Back to the question of what kind of stocks or company you should invest or buy into during a recession. You just look at these two business model. Business model like Visa, MasterCard, and Amex, which are the credit card network provider, which has consistent income coming in, whether it's recession or no recession. And then the other business model is like banks, right? Where the revenue could be impacted by the ability of the people, of your customer, to repay the money that you lend to them, especially during hard times like in a recession. So if you look at these two business models, you want to be Visa, MasterCard, or Amex, or you want to be the bank? For me, I would rather buy into stocks that has plunged 30% in price during a recession, but they have a business model that earns 1 or 3% of revenue for each sales and purchase transactions being done. That comes with 100% consistency. Instead of I buy into banking stock, which the price will also drop 30%, but its core revenue is dependent on the behavior, on the emotion, and on the financial situation of its customers. Banking on hope that those customers are good paymaster, but are not financially prudent, not financially smart, and not financially literate enough to pay the full amount owed back to banks. Now that you understand how banks generate revenue from the credit card business versus how all those Visa, MasterCard, Amex generates revenue from credit card business, you can see with a stark contrast, it's just too much of an uncertainty and risk that you're dealing with when you invest in a company that deals like a bank, which depends on customer not paying the full amount. So as a consequence of that, you can earn a revenue up to 18% of the amount that they owe to you, versus 1 to 3% kind of revenue for every transaction done. Another example is in a recession, when business are not doing well. What are the first thing that they are going to do? They are going to actually ask staff to take unpaid leave. And then if that still didn't help the situation, they are going to do a mass retrenchment. They are going to lay off the staff. People are always the first to go for a company when their business revenue shrink. Now just think about this. What are the last thing, the final thing to go for a business in a recession? Ta-da! The business premise would be the last to go. Because if a business does not have a place where it runs its business, there's no business. So let me repeat that. For a business in a recession, the first thing to go is the staff. The last thing to go is the buildings where the business are being conducted. So there's a sector in every stock market that I would personally buy and invest still during recession. Businesses which are renting out all those business premise to other business, if you get what I mean. Businesses that are collecting rental from other business, no matter the size or the type. Now, what kind of business is actually running on the pretext of only collecting property rental from other business, which in my opinion is relatively consistent, just like credit card companies, right? It's a relatively consistent when it comes to still having that kind of guarantee rental income during recession time. If you want me to send you an invite on this sector of business that is very resilient during recession, the kind of stocks or companies that you might want to consider investing into even during recession because their income stream is still pretty consistent relatively, comments below. I want it, and then I will actually reply you and send you an invite to an upcoming web class that I'm conducting.
When the time comes for you to pay me, I call you but you don't answer me. You've made me a sipay dulan loan shark. I take pain and splash at your house wall, take big hit and hang on your front door. Please don't ever mess around with a loan shark.
Drop your comments below and I look at every comment, I reply to each and every of them. Now lastly, if you feel this insight has been useful, click on like, hit on subscribe as well, hit on the notification bell so you get notified when I publish more lessons in CFU channel.